Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jazmin. If you have no idea who I am a first generation low income undergraduate at Stanford University, and I made this channel to help other first generation low income students get better access to higher education through my college related videos. If you've been watching my videos, then you've noticed that the background behind me is my college dorm. I am currently a student at Stanford, but because it is the end of November, next week I will be filming back home in my bedroom, and my background's gonna change, and I don't know if anyone cares, but that's what's gonna happen. And for today's video, we're gonna be talking about ranking the different parts of your college application in terms of importance. So what is the most important aspect of your college application, and what do college admissions officers focus on when they're reading your college application? Because I know that a ton of students right now are applying to colleges and they're worrying about their essays, their extracurriculars, their GPA, and they need to know what weighs a lot in terms of importance when they're submitting their application, and what part of their application that they should really focus on. And you should focus on every single part of your college application if you're really trying to get into some competitive schools. But I'm here to tell you that there is a hierarchy of importance of different parts of your college application, and let's get into it. So the first and most important part of your college application is your high school transcript and your GPA. So I did some research all over the internet, and apparently this is kind of like the consensus among a lot of admissions offices in different colleges, different universities. They look at your high school transcript and your GPA, what classes you took and how well you did in those classes. So the universities, especially competitive universities, want to know whether or not you challenge yourself academically, and that is in respect to what circumstance you were put into. So my high school, for example, was very low income, underfunded, and we didn't have a lot of AP programs, a lot of we didn't have any IB programs as a matter of fact, and we had like a few honors courses, but I did the most with what I had. We had a total of 6 AP classes. I took 5 of them. I think I took almost about every honors class that they had to offer, and I really tried to do the most with what I was given. And that's what your college admissions officer wants to know, is that if you really challenge yourself, if you really push yourself, it might be harder for larger high schools or high schools that offer a lot more programs, because if your high school offers like 30 AP classes, taking 5 out of those 30 is not as impressive as my application where I took 5 out of 6. So it's really dependent on what kind of opportunities are presented to you and whether or not you took advantage of those opportunities as a student. Your GPA is important because they don't only want to know whether or not you challenge yourself, but how well you did with that challenge, how well you performed in an academic setting, and how well of a student you are. I personally don't think that grades are a accurate measurement or metric for someone's intelligence, but in terms of college admissions, that's what they focus on. The second most important part of your college application are standardized tests, and more specifically the SAT and the ACT. So I am very much aware that the SAT and the ACT are very American tests, and there might be some fly international students who are applying to colleges in America, and they might not have the SAT or the ACT. But for American students or students who are in America going to colleges in America or in the United States, then you might be aware of the ACT and the SAT. The SAT and the ACT are 2 different tests, but students who take the SAT in California are taking the exact same test in New York, and this is kind of like an equal metric all over the nation to measure what you perform academically on that test compared to other students who took the exact same test that you did. And these standardized tests are super unfair, they're super classist, they're super racist, and there is a lot going on and a lot wrong with these tests. But some colleges still put a lot of importance into these tests. A lot of times they take your scores into consideration of your context. So for example, I have another video about my own SAT scores and how I scored higher than the average at my high school, but not as high as like the national average or the national, like what is considered competitive compared to everyone else in the United States. But because in my context, in my circumstance, I scored higher than what is normal, then that was considered more impressive, even though my test scores weren't technically competitive. Luckily, if you're watching this video right as it came out, then a lot of colleges are going SAT optional. And what that means is that you can either report your scores or you cannot, and it won't affect your application. It won't disqualify your application. It won't mean that it's incomplete. It just means that you decided not to submit your SAT scores if you feel like it won't help your application. So definitely take advantage of this opportunity. A lot of schools are going SAT optional because of coronavirus, but also because, like I said before, the SAT and the standardized tests are just not fair. And hopefully these universities are coming to realize that and are putting less and less importance on the SAT and ACT. But as for now, they are still very important for your college application. And even if your school that you're applying to is SAT optional, I completely recommend including your SAT if you feel like it's going to help you. If you got a really good score on your SAT, either in general or in comparison to your peers, I do recommend submitting that score so your college admissions officer has more information on your file. The third most important part of your college application is your essays. So if you're applying to private schools, your personal statement does hold more value than your supplemental essays. And I have another video where I read my personal statement. Make sure to go check that out. And if you're applying to the University of California system and those different schools, then they ask for, I think, 4 personal insight questions, which are still your essay questions, but it's formatted differently than it is on the Common App for private universities. Your essays still matter a lot to your college admissions officer because they can get to know you through your test scores, through your ranking, through your high school GPA, but they don't actually know who you are and what traits you carry beyond these scores, because every single student is so much more than their scores. Every single student is not only defined by their GPA or their ranking or all of these numbers. You hold so much value and you are so much more than that, and through these essays you can communicate that to your reader of like who you really are and what you're actually passionate about and what drives you, what motivates you, and it just lets your reader create this 3D version of you beyond your numbers. Although I do say that the supplemental essays are not as significant as your personal statement, your supplemental essays are still very, very significant, and you should not underestimate them. You should not just think of them as throwaway responses. Every single one of those questions is an opportunity for you to get your reader to know you more and know you better and talk more about yourself, talk more about the ups and downs of who you are and your special interests, your special talents, and all of these other small details about you that goes beyond what your personal statement says. The fourth most important part of your college application is your letters of recommendation, and these letters vary between different college applications. I know that for the public system, not every school requires a letter of recommendation. Some very competitive public schools do require those letters, but for private schools it is most common that they will be asking for at least 2 letters of recommendation, of which I recommend you ask whichever teachers know you best and whichever teacher you think can write a very strong letter of recommendation for you. You should also aim to ask your teachers from core subjects like history, math, or science, and these teachers should also be more recent. So your senior and junior year teachers are the best teachers for you to go to ask for these letters of recommendation. You don't want to go all the way back to your middle school PE teacher and ask them for a letter of recommendation for your college essay, because they don't actually know who you are and it's not very updated information and it's not accurate or specific to who you are as a student and your performance in that setting. And the purpose of these letters are to verify everything that you're saying about yourself. So you can have the best scores, you can have the best grades, and you can talk about how amazing you are. And all of that is just like he said, she said, unless there is a letter of rec that verifies all of that, that you are truly an amazing student that I believe that you are. and your teachers or whoever writes these letters of recommendation should be able to communicate that and make that very clear and advocate for you through these letters. The fifth aspect that your college admissions officers read when they're looking at your application are your extracurriculars, and these are very, very important because they show what you do on your free time, how you like to spend your time outside of school, who you are outside of school. And through a lot of activities, you can show what you're passionate about. It depends on how many things you're involved in. So a lot of people put that they're involved in their local church, or they're involved in volunteering, they're involved in choir, or they love to teach other people piano lessons. And some typical ones are being involved in debate or being into sports, or anything that you do outside of school in your own free time is very important for your readers to know, so that they can see what kind of person you are and what things are important to you. So if you are not yet applying to these colleges and you're still in high school, maybe you're a freshman and you're watching this video for some reason, then I completely recommend starting off your extracurriculars list and listing all the times that you volunteered, listing all the types of activities that you've been involved in, and getting involved in activities that really push you and motivate you, and activities that demonstrate what you're interested in and what you're passionate about, so that your admissions officer, when you do apply to college, can see that you worked very long or very hard and for a very long time on these activities, to get a feel of who you are as a person as opposed to just who you are as a student. You don't have to have the best extracurriculars list. I have a video where I talk about all the extracurriculars I was involved in, and I was involved in a lot, but none of them were outstanding, or none of them were something that was life-changing. It was mainly getting involved in PTSA, in sports, or other smaller things. But it's okay to not have such an exhaustive list or something that really stands out, as long as you have leadership positions, or you show that you're committed to these activities, or maybe just the size of your extracurricular. Those things are very important, and there are so many types of extracurriculars that you can get involved in, so make sure that you list all of them on your application. And a bonus aspect that your colleges will be looking at is a relationship that you have with the school. So I was hesitant about including this in this video because this channel is primarily for first-generation low-income students, but maybe it is of importance that you might have some type of relationship with the school that you're attending. So maybe you did an internship at that school, maybe you did some type of summer program at that school, and they see that you've already become familiar with the campus, you become familiar with the students there and the teachers there. Maybe you sat in a class one time, and they take those things into consideration if they notice that you have been present at that school before. So a lot of times the relationship part of your application is whether or not you have a parent working at the university, not necessarily maybe as a university professor, but maybe in other areas that might also be important. I know for a fact that legacy students get a boost in college admissions. If you're a legacy student, it means that your parent went to the same college that you're applying to, and that gives you a boost because you have an indirect relationship with the school through your parent. So besides that last point, those are the top 5 things that are most important in your college application. Remember, that is your high school transcript and your GPA, your standardized test scores, your college essays, your letters of recommendation, and your extracurriculars. And hopefully this video was helpful. Please let me know down in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at firstgenfirst, or on Twitter firstgen1st, or send us an email at info@firstgenfirst.org. Bye. You know, this very comes video where I'm talking about what and outside of yourself as a student. Wait, what?